Happens a little bit different. Can you guys still hear him?
Yeah.
How's that sound now?
Can you hear me?
Much better.
Yeah, I've been the phone closer too. I'm going to sit it right here.
Okay.
All righty, folks. We're going to try it again. I think we got this rocking and rolling. So we'll just start it from the top.
Okay.
That works for everybody?
Yep. Sounds good.
All righty. 1 second. Let me cue up my talking points. All righty. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jamin Butler. I am proud to moderate this session today on vendor management here for the Aroma Virtual Culinary Conference, sponsored and created by the Black Restaurant Team. Special thanks to Fallon Farrell for putting this together and helping organize. I'm going to introduce this awesome panel that we have here of professionals, starting with, Mr. Justin Nix. Justin Nix works for a large beverage manufacturer. He has over 8 years of sales and wholesale distribution experience, working in various capacities. Justin, can you hear me?
I can hear you. What's going on, everyone? Hey, first of all, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to be a part of this panel. I got to read a lot of the bios. We got some very, very impressive folks with some great experience.
Is he speaking?
And hopefully we can educate you guys on some ways that as restaurateurs, you guys can help benefit. I'm super excited. I work for Anheuser-Busch and full transparency, so based out of Atlanta. So looking forward to chatting with you all.
Appreciate you having here, Justin. Next, I'm going to go with Mr. Julian Boyd. Let's see here. Sorry, I had your bio right there. There we go. Julian Boyd graduated from Morehouse College with a degree in finance. He got his MBA from UNC Chapel Hill. Currently, he is the co-owner of Debo's Wings, a hot wing franchise based out of Memphis, Tennessee. Julian, can you hear me, my brother?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Look, first off, I love Black Restaurant Week. It's one of the best things that I think has happened to the restaurant industry in the last few years. Happy to be a part of it. Debo's Wings, we've been around a footprint for Memphis, Tennessee for the last 30 years. We've recently started franchise development. We've locked in our first franchise partner for the Central Florida market, and we're looking to grow this thing with as many franchise partners as possible. This is an awesome panel to be on, and I can't wait to share as much information as possible from my experience and also hear the rest of the panels.
Thank you. Proud to have you here, Julian. And last but not least, we got joining us here Mr. Wayne Luckett. He is the president and CEO of Brandwar Wine Distributing Co. He's also an importer, a wholesaler of fine wines from around the world. Wayne, can you hear me, my brother?
Yes, I can, Jamin. Thanks so much for the introduction. I'm very excited to participate on the panel. As you mentioned, we own a wine import and wholesale distribution company. We founded this myself, along with Warren Luckett 10 years ago. And we're excited to participate on this panel to talk about vendor relationships between restaurants and our company. I do want to congratulate Warren and his co-founders, Fallon and Derek, on their 5-year anniversary and the progress and success that they've made in the Black culinary industry. It's an exciting time for us, especially as we continue to support our Black businesses.
Absolutely. I echo those sentiments. Congratulations to the entire team. What you guys have accomplished, building together this network across the country of entrepreneurs, business professionals, and owners is just remarkable. I look forward to all the milestones you accomplish in the next slide. All righty, so we have some questions prepared for the panel today, so I'm just going to jump right in. You guys, on this first one, anyone feel free to tackle it. This year with COVID-19, we have seen many challenges in the culinary industry, as well as shortages with supplies. How has the supplier side of the culinary adjusted and changed due to COVID-19? And I can repeat that if anybody.
I can provide some comments to that because, to be quite honest, given the restrictions on social associated with COVID, our primary revenue stream associated with convention centers, hotels, on-premise restaurants. In our state, we're from Houston, Texas. There was a an order that came out through the governor to actually block any gatherings, if you would, large gatherings within the community. So given that, we had to work with finding a way to continue to distribute wines to venues that were off premise. So normally like your liquor stores or your restaurants that were given off-prem sales leniency during this period, we had to really work with them in order to continue to move our products. We did also coordinate with our suppliers, in other words, the wineries that provided us our products, to let them know that because we have had a restriction in our products, that they would work with us as far as reimbursements. So it has hit us drastically and seriously, but as the state started, to start open up, we were able to start producing and distributing our products. But it has had a major impact on our business.
Yeah, I'll also chime in on that one. COVID has been it's been an anomaly of a year for the beer industry on our side. So working out of Atlanta, some of the challenges that we've experienced are same things that Mr. Luckett has talked about, right? My business mix, working specifically with some of the local wholesalers, 80% of that volume is done in the off-premise, and what you saw was an increase or a flocking to grocery stores, convenience stores, and packaged liquor for load-in, pantry load-in is what we called it, right? And it was at the expense of on-premise. So markets truly did suffer, especially if, as a big beer distributor, concessions was gone, hospitality completely gone. So it's been a very big challenge. Luckily, we've been able to offset the business through off-premise sales. So it became a game of, if you had a presence in off-premise as a supplier, you were more likely to succeed. So that came at the expense, again, of a ton of on-premise business. And you're talking about losing out on a significant portion of the profitable business, right, when you're looking at it, right? When you're looking at craft beer, I'm assuming Mr. Luckett can talk about the profitability tied to wines, right? When you lose out on that profitability, when you're selling, wines by the glasses, or I'm saying a higher margin product, that package mix is disproportionately impacted. So long story short, it's been a challenging year, a rewarding year in off-premise. A lot of the pantry loading impact on-premise and concessions in the hospitality industry, specifically in Atlanta. But those that are in Atlanta, inside the perimeter, definitely suffered and continues to suffer today. So.
I could say the same. The restaurant industry has been hit in the most strange way, because you have a lot of restaurants that are closing and some that are growing now. I think for us personally, as a hot wing franchise, one of the biggest challenges that we faced was you had a lot of chicken farms that were closing. And so a lot of the places where we're getting food from on the regular basis, they're closing because of high infection rates of COVID. So it got to a point where you're not just able to get food from your supplier. You got to go to the local restaurant depot, go to, Sam's Club, or just Costco, or wherever you can get chicken. It was like that for a certain point, and it was kind of scary at one point because, while we do have other food items, the majority of our sales mix is wings and whole wings, party wings and whole wings. So I'm hoping that we're on the other end of that now, but we were definitely impacted by COVID in that way. So I'm happy that we were able to navigate that, and I'm looking forward to what comes next.
Excellent, gentlemen. Excellent. I'm hearing a lot of these entrepreneurial skills. You really had to be able to pivot and come up with some unique ways to position your business to continue to get that revenue that's desperately needed. Now, I'm going right back to you, Julian. This is another question, sir. So as a restaurateur, what support are you looking for with your vendors? What matters most, price or relationship?
That's a great question, Jamin. And so I'll start with what we're looking for from the vendors. I think consistency and dependability are what we're looking for as clients. It's knowing that my food products are going to be high quality every time, because otherwise my brand could be compromised. It's knowing that the chicken delivery truck is going to be on time, on schedule every Monday morning, because my operation can become compromised and now we're behind on schedule. We prep all day and night to keep our operation efficient. That's how we keep things rolling. And anything that compromises that, we're the ones that are going to take a hit. If we don't have something that the customers are looking for, we does the company end up taking a hit? When you're talking between price and relationships, I think that's a tough one because I want to say that price and relationships matter. The reason why is you want to make sure that you're getting your products at the best price, but you also want to make sure that you're able to keep your food costs low. But those strong relationships that you built should be helping you keep things smoothly, and that should continuously improve with your suppliers. So when something happens, for instance, something always happens, say a delivery truck is continuously late. I need to be able to call my sales rep and sometimes even the regional manager to get things rectified. Because my thing is, my business needs to be cherished and treated no matter if it's at 2 units or at 100 units. My payments are on time every 30 days, so I expect my food product to be there on time every time. If that kind of answers the question.
Amen, my brother. Put a stamp on it. And anybody, did Justin, Wayne, did you guys want to jump in on that one?
Yeah,
absolutely. What Julian was saying is absolutely correct. As a vendor, relationship is very important, and also looking at the product itself is very important. It's sort of like a dual stream. You have to really develop the restaurant. You have to develop trust and also the kind of relationship that the restaurant can depend on. It's nothing worse than setting up a relationship with the vendor and you have a critical event coming up, and that vendor cannot deliver. That not only drastically harms the restaurant, but also the reputation of the vendor. So, but it is so important to have quality products that really represents that restaurant so that your business can be continuous. And again, you have to provide consistency with those products, not just once off, but especially for reorders to really support the relationship that you have with that restaurant. So what Julian said is absolutely correct. I applaud and ditto that. Julian.
And did you want to get in there, Justin?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think Julian hit on a fantastic point, right? And it goes both ways, right? So I'm on the supplier side, and I have the privilege of working with roughly a 9 million case wholesaler of my business. I represent roughly 80 to 85% of their total business. So our relationship is super important. The way we're managing our route to market, including pricing down to restaurants. So one of the things that I think is super important that Julian could probably talk about a lot more, you really come to understand which suppliers or which vendors are in it for the long haul and invested in you. And that comes through relationship as well as price, right? So for us, we were able to implement keg pricing, right? Where typically we'll have a 5 keg QD at a certain price. We reduced it down to 1 temporarily, and luckily state pricing laws allowed us to do so in order to help our on-premise friends, because we understood that number one, cash flow would be super tight at the time. So like I think the key part is from the supplier side, it's important to keep our customers happy, right? It's important to keep all the restaurants, and as the largest supplier within my wholesaler's business, we held them accountable just as much to ensure they're not losing step on service level, right? Ensuring that their guys are still hitting the streets and supporting the restaurants in the way that they should. So it was a combination for us, and super important for us to maintain the continuity of our business, right? We knew the level of disruption that COVID caused, but maintaining that continuity specific with our customers, we did realize that at the end of the day, the hope is that those customers who have very, very supportive suppliers, they would then remember those suppliers next year, 2 years down the road, when the business begins to come back and business grows, right? Because it's those who had your back 9 times out of 10 are the ones that you're going to look out for in the following year. So for us, it's a combination of all of that. Most importantly, holding our sales teams accountable, who are feet on the street, ensure they're still supporting restaurants.
I'm hearing consistency, dependability, trust, quality, accountability, and I'm echoed amongst all three of you. Very truly fundamental aspects of a relationship, right? Of a mutually beneficial, where you're counting on us and we're counting on you, and we're going to make sure we meet our standards and stick by our word. I'm loving it, brothers. Let me see here. Next up, it's coming for you, Julian. What is the best way to find new vendors as a startup restaurateur? What are 3 suppliers one should look into when starting a restaurant?
That's a great question. Okay. I think it depends on the restaurant that you're opening, right? But if you're new to the restaurant industry, I don't think you could go wrong with US Foods or Cisco, seeing as they're strong national chains, and you should have support in whatever region it is that you operate in, be it the North, Northeast, South, Midwest, or wherever. If you're looking into beverages, you can't go wrong with Coke or Pepsi. You know, those will be the top 2 wherever you go. You know, Atlanta's a Coke city. If you go out to Texas, it's nothing but Pepsi. So there's nothing wrong with looking into smaller companies for some menu items if the quality and consistency is there. But most importantly, if they can support your volume, I think that's going to be your key thing. Because it's great to have a high quality product, but if you're selling it, you have to be able to replenish that to be able to continue that sale, or you're going to have upset customers. So, for instance, I wouldn't necessarily use a small farm to get the wings that we use, because we do somewhere around 50 to 60 cases on a weekly basis. And if they can't keep up with that volume, once again, we go back to that relationships where the brand is compromised. But if my supplier was constantly late with orders, if my big chain, say of US Foods or Tyson or anybody else that I'm using is late, then I have no problem taking a look at a smaller place because they clearly don't value my business. So I have no problem looking elsewhere. I think positive supplier relationships are super important, but it goes back to that respect piece. I think that's the most important thing that we've learned in the last 30 years, because we've switched between them. If somebody's not doing the right thing and treating our brand the way that we deserve to be treated, then we have no problem making the switch.
Warren, Wayne, I want to get you in here. So as a wine distributor, what would you say is the best or the 3 suppliers that you look into when, let's say, running your business and operations?
Well, as a supplier, being an importer of products from the majority of our products come from overseas. Our portfolio is predominantly South African products, which sort of established us as a unique service vendor. So we have heavy dependency as a vendor on our number one, our wine supplier. They have to again be able to keep up with the demand that we have back in the States, because it's nothing worse than our restaurants saying, "Hey, look, I'd like to order 2 or 3 more cases of wine, and you're out of stock." So it is important for that relationship with the winery to have those products available. But in addition to that, you have to have a reliable freight forwarding company that organizes shipment delivery from overseas here in the States. And that is a very important aspect because if, for instance, if it's going to take us 30 days to receive our product from South Africa, if the freight forwarding company has organized shipment with a ship that's not reliable and dependable, it could take us 60 to 90 days. So those kinds of things are very, very important because, again, we want to make sure we harness and maintain good relationships with our restaurants, because if not, then of course, we will not be able to have the business that we currently have. So those are some of the things, again, Jim, from a supplier standpoint, as far as what our dependencies are. And of course, you have to have good financial support. A lot of times, especially when you're starting up a business, there's not a lot of capital that may be available. So you go to these various banking institutions to let them know what your business plan is all about. Let them know what your marketing plan is going to be, and really develop the support that you need financially in order to accomplish the goals that you set.
Excellent. Justin, did you want to get in here, sir?
No comment. Hey, these gentlemen hit it on the head.
So then we'll go to this next question. This is open-ended for everybody. Negotiations are a part of the business process. What is the best advice you can offer restaurants when supporting? When negotiating?
I'll
one of the things I think we talked about.
Hold on, I think Wayne. Go ahead, Wayne. You got it.
Okay.
No, Wayne, you got it.
Julian was really talking early on about making sure that the margins that the restaurant pays for the product is in line with what his goals are in order to sustain existence. So what we try to do when we meet with a restaurant and negotiate coming on board. Number one, we normally start off with wine tastings of the products that we feel best fits his cuisine. And based on those products, we then talk about the pricing. In other words, we want to make sure we're negotiating products that allow not only the vendor, but also the restaurant to accomplish the margins that they're looking for. So it is important that we really establish financially what the product is going to be to match his restaurant requirements as well as the margins that he's looking for.
Thank you. Now, Julian, what is the best advice you can offer restaurants when negotiating?
I think you have to figure out what aligns with your overall business plan, right? You have to set your foundation. Like, you want your food costs, your labor costs to be at a certain thing, but if we're talking suppliers, your food costs are going to be the most important. So it's all about shopping around, doing the most due diligence that you can do, because if one supplier is offering it at one price, you need to see if there's a better price out there before you commit to it, because you're the one that's going to be impacted at the end of the day. And your food costs have to definitely align with whatever it is that your bottom line needs to be, whatever milestones that it is that you need to hit to be not only just a fully functional, profitable restaurant, but you have to be extremely profitable, because a lot of restaurants don't make it their first few months, let alone their first 6 months or 5 years or whatever. And I think a lot of that comes from poor planning. It's like you signed up for all of these things, but you weren't prepared for it. Another thing that I would do is find a list of restaurant owners that you can get in contact with just to have those kind of conversations, so you could figure out what it is, kind of where you need to be to make sure that your business is able to fully operate to the best of its ability.
Excellent advice. Justin, now coming in from on the supplier side, what is the best advice that you can offer a restaurant when negotiating?
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things, right? And it ends up being around how do you want to manage the kind of total business complexity, right? Beer is super commoditized, right? So, my company wouldn't necessarily want to say this. If you're looking for specific beer styles, 9 times out of 10, you can get it from multiple suppliers, right? But I think the most important part when negotiating is, number one, does that distributor that you decide to work with have the product assortment that fits your needs, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're a restaurant owner and maybe you're managing front of the house and the back of the house and you want to eliminate or limit the complexity it takes, you may want to reduce the total number of vendors. You may just want to continue to deal with one food vendor, one soft drink vendor, and one beverage distributor. And beverage distributors across the board, they can offer wine, spirits, and beer, right, to fit your total needs. So that is kind of one component. I think it's more one of those like know thyself type recommendations. Understand what look and feel that you're going for. If you're looking for craft beer, most beer distributors have craft in-house. Now, I think the flip side of it, when you're talking about negotiating price, at least the beer industry is super regulated, right? So there's not a lot of flexibility that we have with price, but the way you make that up is typically with promotions, what support they can provide from printing needs. Say you're just a bar, right, and you're trying to pull people in for Sunday football. You may need banners printed communicating that need on the outside. That is a resource for a piece of positive gain that you can get from a supplier, right, or a distributor in this particular case. So I think if you're looking at limiting the total number of suppliers, that is a consideration that you need to think through. Can your general manager manage multiple suppliers at one time? And guess what? We go hard. The teams go hard to try to sell as much products as possible. So you got to understand on whether or not you're willing to manage kind of supplier relationships in that regard. And then it's product assortment. Once you have product assortment locked in and if you want to go local or Mr. Luckett put it closely, it's about matching the cuisine. You may not be a beer bar, so you may not need a ton a ton of different beers. The assortment may not be there. So let that drive how you leverage those relationships with distributors. And then the supplier side will come in typically at sponsorship levels, or when I say sponsorship, I think we'll get to there, Jim. But ultimately, when you're managing your relationship with your distributors, think about your product assortment and your end goals. Just a big part.
Excellent advice. Excellent advice. All you guys, this is called free game. What we call it in the culture. So I hope that this information is getting soaked in by our viewers. I appreciate you guys. Wayne, I'm gonna come to you next.
Okay.
As a minority supplier, what are the steps you've taken to create accounts with restaurants, hotels, and stores? What has been your challenge as a supplier?
Okay, and that's an excellent question. Being a minority supplier, you really need to establish credibility and certification that you are a bona fide and real live existing business that can really perform the various functions that you espouse. So the first things that we did when we started our business was to become certified as a minority vendor.
By the city, by the state, and also there's the Minority Supplier Development Council that also provides certification. And of course, once that's done, then we wanted to really establish that our products were high quality. So our focus was to go into all of the high-end restaurants around town, around the city. Whether it's Frisco's, Eddie's, all your Season 52, all the garden restaurants, and that in itself then establish confidence when you go to the various restaurants and try to seek accounts. Hey, this is a reputable vendor. But at the same time of doing and establishing yourself as a bona fide and high-quality company, you have to develop relationships in the business community. And of course, we being a minority business, our first step was to join our Black Chamber of Commerce. When all fails, if you're not getting the kind of business you need, at least you can depend on your brothers and sisters to say, look, we have a unique situation here that we're bringing products in from our motherland, from Africa. And we were very fortunate to pick up, black winemakers, and all of a sudden, you establish this chain, this supplier chain, where from end to end, you're now representing people. That has been one of our approaches, and of course, not only from establishing relationships with the business community, but you also have to receive recognition within the industry. So a lot of our products we have submitted for international wine competitions, and we received gold medals, silver medals. And again, nothing else to lift your recognition that, hey, look, this is a company, they're reliable, they've got excellent products, and they believe in making good business decisions within the community. So as far as the challenges, there's always going to be challenges, especially when you look at some of the larger food chains in the country, whether it's Randall's or Kroger's, H-E-B. They normally rely on the larger distributors like Republic or Southern Glaciers. And so there we had to really, again, offer something unique instead of just going and offering California wines or French wines. We said, let's offer something unique, wines from South Africa, which has really helped us get into the door.
These are awesome tips. Awesome, Wayne. And I'm going to kind of speed through because we're getting close to our time. So this question is going to be for both Justin and Wayne. The profit margin on beverages are a great asset for restaurants. What is the best way to build out a profitable wine, beer, beverage program? What questions should restaurants ask when selecting wine and beer for their bar program? And I'm going to read it again. The profit margin on beverages are a great asset to restaurants. What is the best way to build out a profitable wine, beer, beverage program? What questions should restaurants ask when selecting wine and beer for their bar program?
Yeah, I can jump in and answer this question first. So, number one, I think it gets to again, going back to Julian, because he's like the North Star here with having owned and operated a restaurant, right? It's knowing what you want to accomplish, right? So what are the goals, right? If you're a if you're a standard kind of bar fare sports bar, right? That's going to be very different than operating as a gastro pub, as an American restaurant, as a kind of niche culture restaurant. So, like, if you understand ultimately where you fall, I would say 100% reference other restaurants that you emulate, right? And take the time to observe their menus, right? I think the second point, after you know who you are, right? It's to think about, like, what's the breadth of assortment that you like, right? And I think you approach it both horizontally and vertically. Horizontally, from a beer perspective, is always in regards to styles. You may just be a strictly a domestic restaurant, right? Selling Bud Light, Miller Lite, Budweiser, right? Some of your core mainstream brands, and that's 100% okay, right? And so when you're then talking profitability, that hits out on your lager category. So I think, let me take a step back. I would strongly urge, as a restaurant owner, either having someone in your organization that has some working knowledge of beer as well as wine. You don't have to get your Cicerone or your sommelier lesson, but have a fundamental working knowledge of the industry, because that allows you to talk, have a productive conversation when you're talking across styles, right? So back to that horizontal, right? You got styles, lagers, the ales, and then there's varying types of beers within each of those categories. But then you got price tiers, right? If you're talking verticals, right? So understand that you may have to have an opportunity to meet each and every consumer as they walk in the door. You from a beer perspective, it's okay to have, a $4 long neck or a $5 long neck, and also have a $8 to $9 double IPA, right? And that's based off your knowledge of your organization, the assortment that you want to go. I think the important consideration across the board as well is know your company mix, right? Like, it's important that you understand or have a fundamental knowledge of what percentage of your business from a revenue stream perspective is tied to food and what's tied to beverages, because that's going to drive how you make these decisions, right? So, like, we deal with a lot of, high volume spirits companies or spirit restaurants as well. It's Atlanta, right? So it's tough for us to create equivalencies across beer when you're battling spirits, but we know that there's a category and a consumer walking in. And then that's where you end up talking price, right? Like, I'm very familiar with off-premise, right? Largely because that's the business that's been growing, right? So off-premise operates anywhere from a 15 to 20% margin on average on beer. As you guys know, restaurants is anywhere from 35 to 45% margins on average with all their products. So just make sure that when you're presented with some type of price letter from your distributors, understand the QDs, right, that exist, because that's going to get you the best price for you to maximize your margins. But ultimately, understand, like, have some type of calculator so you can back into some margin that you would ideally like to make on a per product basis would be super important. So understand your horizontals and your verticals regarding styles and price, and then make sure that specific product line fits the margin growth or a margin opportunity that you're most interested in. I think the other last point is you got to take into consideration rate of sale, right? If a product doesn't move, no matter how priced or how cheap it is, you ain't gonna sell it. You're not gonna make any money. So even taking into consideration that rate of sale piece, you can't have a $15 IPA in a sports bar, right? It won't make sense. You won't sell through that product, and ultimately both you and the supplier is going to be pissed, because 9 times out of 10 you're going to ask the supplier to come pick up that product, or you're not going to sell through it. You're going to eat that in the form of spoilage, right? So these are all things that you got to take into consideration: horizontals, verticals, rate of sale, and ultimately knowing the consumer that's walking in the door on a daily basis.
And now,
I absolutely agree with what Justin just summarized. That was very good depiction as to what should be considered when making decisions with the restaurant. Again, that product selection is so important that it does, pair very well with the cuisine that's going to be served, especially from a wine standpoint. And of course, it has to be good quality and a good value. In other words, price point. One of the things we look at is, okay, in your menu you have price ranges by the glass. Usually your by the glass cost is what your actual cost of the wine is when you purchase from a wholesaler.
But again, the margins for restaurants can range anywhere from 50 to 250 to 300%, depending on the restaurant that you have, and of course it's going to vary as to what that would be. But one of the things we also offer to the restaurants when they actually purchase a wine is to really provide waitstaff training on that product. There's nothing more enjoyable by a patron when a waitstaff person comes up and he presents the bottle of wine and he gives some information about the wine, other than pop the cork. By the way, this wine here comes from this region. There's a winemaker that has received all types of accolades and awards, and here's some of the characteristics you're going to realize from that product. So what we do is to try to educate the waitstaff. That's a part of our onboarding procedure with a new restaurant, is to provide that type of training so that not only will they benefit with their patrons, but also will benefit by having reorders. So there's a team relationship that has to go in when you talk about negotiating margins. Of course, we're looking at margins anywhere from 35 to 50%. But again, it depends on the product and depends on the value of the product you're presenting.
I do want to chime in. And say one thing in regards to that. I think it's funny with everything that's gone on with COVID. So in some places, I'm sure you guys know this, but for those watching, it's a lot tougher to get a liquor license in some states than it is in others. You know, in Florida and Pennsylvania, it's like $100,000 or something like that, or over that much. And then, you know, in the South, I know in Tennessee, it's like $1,500 or maybe somewhere around $5,500 in Texas and things like that. That's one of the things that makes it tough for a lot of restaurants that are trying to start up. That's a barrier. That's a barrier that needs to be erased. You know, fortunately, I mean, COVID has been tough, but one of the benefits of it is the to-go alcoholic beverages that have helped a lot of restaurants stay open and hit their sales numbers and achieve and succeed. And so it's something that a lot of people, especially in the more conservative states, are going to be pushing forward for at least for the next year, where it's like, listen, we just need to be doing to-go alcoholic beverages anyway because it directly impacts my bottom line. I know we're seeing that as a company. It's been an amazing benefit for everything that we've been able to accomplish this year, but that's something that has to get fixed. I don't understand why it costs $100,000 to get a liquor license, like if that's going to be a sustainable part of my business. So you're telling me that however much my business was originally going to cost, there's an additional 80 to 100K? That's ridiculous, and that doesn't make any sense.
Absolutely. That's a barrier to entry. It's a barrier. Great observation, Julian. So I think we're on time, gentlemen. You guys have been fantastic. I had a last question, but I know we have the keynote coming on in about 5 minutes. So we're going to wrap this up. I truly appreciate it. Mr. Wayne Luckett, Mr. Justin Nix, Mr. Julian Boyd. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time today. I've learned so much. Thankful to be in community with you. I'm going to be hitting y'all up to see how we can work together and how I can learn.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for making time.
Pleasure working with the panelists here. I really enjoyed it and hope we can all continue to stay in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you guys.
I'm going to take a quick photo.
I was there, quick photo?
Yeah, I'm going to do a quick photo. Yeah, smile.
And send me a copy of that, gentlemen, because I have not seen any pictures at all on the screen. You can text it to my cell phone.
Let me get a good angle. Now, Wayne, you got to say my name. It's Jamin Butler. Jamin.
Right, Jamin.
There we go. I got you. I'm going to text it to you. I got your number
all
right here.
Thanks a lot, Jamin.
Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Thank you.